How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Prey Pursuit. I'm the host, Brad Alexander, and today we're going to be talking about a little bit of prep that you can do this spring before the late summer and fall comes to lay off pressure on the whitetails and, just have a successful fall. So, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope everyone had a blessed Easter, a great weekend, hanging out with family or doing whatever you love to do. So enjoy this episode, guys. Thank you for tuning in as always, and let's get into it. Right before we dive into it, guys, I want to chat to you about Tagged and Bagged. Tagged and Bag makes preservation kits that can preserve your animals before bringing them to the taxidermist. Whether it's a bird or fish, they got you covered. So check out taggedandbag.com and get your preservation kit today and use code PRAYPURSUIT for 10% off. Now, enjoy this episode. All right, how's it going, guys? Today we're going to be chatting a little bit about, it's springtime, the snow's melted mostly in Wisconsin here, and it's time to put some sweat and tears into your land before, succeeding this fall. And it comes around every year, and there's always at least for us, there's a long list of things we got to get done before it gets too late into the season. So that's what we're going to be chatting about. You just gotta put in that work now and it'll pay off later. But it is very important that you kind of get an early start on this because like I said, the list only gets longer and longer as you continue on. And um, the past couple of years, I haven't been around to help out my dad lately. So yeah, we're really kind of putting it into action now and um, just doing all the improvements we can so we can continue shooting big bucks and possibly some ducks on our land pretty soon here. So yeah, let's dive on into it. It's just important that you get into it early. But we'll talk about that. So preparing land for hunting season. The Right now all the snow's gone. At least here. Possibly up north, there's a little bit, but most of it's gone now, and there's been a whole lot of rain coming in. So it's just making everything kind of the deer are less pressured. The weather's, it's wet and damp and muddy. Um, but it's a great time to get out there and start putting in work. Especially if you're going out turkey hunting, it's important to lay off the pressure a little bit, but the pressure hasn't even started for them for a while now. So you might as well get out there, see if there's sign, check for feathers, check for tracks, check see if you can find where they're roosting. It's all important stuff for turkeys as well. Um, but yeah, what can we do right now in order to make the fall successful or the spring if you're hunting turkeys? So you might be asking, why is spring the most important time to get out and, get some work done? And this is just like kind of what I mentioned already, but it's less pressure on deer, less pressure on the turkeys, just easier to work on the land now because they're not being hunted, first of all. You're not going to bump them miles away. They're just going to go, I've bumped a couple deer here and there just cutting wood out on the land recently, and it's just they're not going to go as far. They're not as spooked. They kind of hear my chainsaw or hear the side by side rolling through the woods, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's back." Just gotta bump them a little bit, but not far enough to where they're on the neighbor's property, and they're gonna come back. And even if you're on a smaller piece, that's no biggie pushing them onto someone else's land. It's just they'll come back as long as you got those resources they're looking for. So you can see a lot of sign from this. like previous season, this fall. In the fall, you're kind of guessing what they're doing, but this time of year, you can go in and actually check out what they were seriously doing, and whether that's finding sheds. I've been finding a lot of beds lately, just deer fur all over the place, and um, yeah, just kind of checking out what they've been up to this past fall, and making notes in my Onyx and Go Hunt apps, just making sure I kind of got their schedule down, at least for what it seems that they were this past season. So yeah, I've been finding their bedding places. I know where they're feeding already since we got food plots. Um, and we'll get into the food plots a little bit more here. But right now, a lot of it's just overall habitat work, clearing trails for the UTV, pulling old fences. We bought my dad bought an old farm like back in the day, and there's still a ton of just rubble, just from old farm equipment, old fencing that just needs to get pulled out of there. So we're working on that a little bit more this year. We kind of did the bare minimum, I would say, the first couple of years, and now it's like, all right, let's get all this crap out of here. Just make it more appeasing to the deer, the turkey, and all the wildlife. And just so you don't want to get caught up in old barbed wire. Ours is so rusted out at this point that it's just snapping if you try to pull it. So it's kind of just a nuisance, and you don't want to pop any tires with the side by side. So yeah, just getting rid of that stuff. A ton of old farm equipment, like I said, but most guys kind of wait until the summertime to do this almost like, or very late spring, early summer. So you don't want to be like that. Those guys are already kind of late in the game. Um, I like to start work around March. I know guys that shed hunt don't like to bump their deer until they know they've all dropped. That's totally fair, and that's the game they want to play. But for me, I just think just getting it done earlier the better, so that this summer, when the bugs are out and it's just everything's a little bit more difficult. You're bumping deer more often, closer to season. It's just easier to get on top of it now, especially when later this spring, and like early summer when we're planting fields and whatnot. It just there's so much to do then that right now just getting this kind of this stuff that seems like a nuisance, just getting it out of the way. Um, I think that's just the way to do it. So yeah. So we're working on food and security for the deer, trying to build up their bed cover. You know, we'll get into that a little bit more here. But so, like I said, this is kind of like the post-season scouting time, finding sheds, finding beds, finding, paths, game trails that they haven't totally used in the future that I haven't seen before. I'm finding them now, and just kind of going over all the old rubs, and yeah, taking note of all of it as I go. So for Wisconsin specifically, our ag field is like kind of in a transition period where like nothing's planted. So that's kind of nice. I know this past season, I believe the farmer put down some corn, and so now it's just has nothing on the ground now, but I'm pretty sure this next year he'll be switching to beans, and that'll be just as good. I don't see too much of a difference typically when it comes to the deer. They like them both, so that's always helpful. Right now, it's perfect time to go back in those swampy areas. I just throw in some muck boots, maybe even waders if I'm getting into some deeper shit. But it's just a good time to walk through those swamp areas. I found a couple dead heads back there. Unfortunately, not many of them have been bucks, but still finding stuff, knowing where they like to bed down for safety and hang out during this time of season too. Um, Yeah, just so we have a better idea of where they may come from this fall when it comes to hunting them. And yeah, there's the ag fields in transition. There's a lot of habitat overall on our property that just needs to kind of either be cleared out or kind of built up even for the bedding areas. And I think we're getting a really good understanding of where they're bedding now. And it's honestly a lot closer than where we thought we they were originally. We thought they were just going into the swamp, and like there are some areas where it's pretty padded down, all the cattails and whatnot. But yeah, we found some more bedding areas, kind of just in the center of our property, which is exactly what we're looking for. So that's pretty great. But yeah, moving on. I just think before we move on, I think that it's very it would be good to emphasize that the spring scouting really shows you what the deer actually did, and that you can go pick up the facts right now while it's low pressure, while they're not going to get bumped too far, and then compare it to what you think they were doing. Kind of compare it to what you saw this past hunting season of like where your deer came from, what was consistent and what wasn't. It's just a great time to take advantage of that. So yeah, habitat improvement. Let's get into this a little bit. I like to break it down pretty simple. Like doable projects that, don't seem too far-fetched for, a couple days that I'm off work or something like that. But hinge cutting for cover is a big one. Um, for those of you who are maybe new to this is perfect podcast for you guys because my dad and I, when we started on this property, it wasn't it wasn't good shape for the deer. It was a bunch of buckthorn. We had to clear a bunch of stuff out, make our own paths for the ATV, UTV. Um, we get the side by side back there and just go to work. But hinge cutting is basically where it's what it sounds like. You cut a tree to make it hinge, but you don't kill it. So you cut it just like a little bit, make it kind of hinge over, maybe give it some help. Um, we've used stakes in the past to like keep it tied down while it kind of grows that part of the root back, not the root, but the stump of the tree. Let it grow back in like a hanging position. So then the tree isn't dead. The deer are able to feed off of that and use it for cover for bedding. Um, yeah, all of that stuff. It's just I don't know. That's kind of our go-to when it comes to making those trees, feedable and provide great cover. If you do it right, we've done a couple like hanging right outside of our food plots. So then when we hang up a stand, they'll come right into it, be focused on the tree. It hides you for cover when you're high up, and yeah, it kind of works out great in our scenario. What else is great for the deer is just creating security near their food. So like I was just saying, like the hinge cutting near the food is just it's hiding us. It feels like they're hidden a little bit better. We on our food plots we make sure they're kind of like in the woods a little bit. They're not just like wide open so you can see them from a road or from like where we're hunting. There's a subdivision nearby, so we make sure it's all kind of hidden, that they still feel protected, and that they're just more willing to come out into the middle of the field to feed and not just hang out on the outskirts of the woods. But those smart bucks, they definitely do tend to, tuck in as much as possible into the wood area. But that's just going to be part of the game. Um, so yeah, creating that sense of security, whether you're making new wow, whether you're making new food plots or using old ones that or just like using the same ones, just creating that security really helps. Um, Another thing during this time of year is access improvements. Like I was saying, I like to go scout out the areas in the swamp that I know there's some thick deer trails through there, and even some bedding area. But More importantly, when you're like making plans for next fall, hanging new stands and whatnot, it's important to think about which way you'll access this area from, what will be the most quietest, and won't bump deer, what you'll be able to, how you'll be able to get in there without scaring them away. So this access, whether it's, through a swamp, you want to build like a little bridge almost, but just use like fallen tree and some two by fours and just go to town, make a little bridge over that area. You can walk real quietly on that instead of like walking through the brush. Anything you can really think of, just get creative and you could even just cut a new path if that's what needs to be, just make it so you're in there quick and quiet and you have some good exit routes as well, whether that's with the we get oftentimes a southwest wind. That's kind of what we base off everything off of, just because most of the time that's where the wind is blowing. It is important though to think about, okay, what if it totally switches up on you? What's your plan B, C, D? Like every direction of wind, you got to think about, got to put it into account because that does affect where the deer are, where the wind's blowing, where your scent's going, and what will spook them. So be sure to put all that into accountability, and just think about, um, what your plan A, B, and C are, when it comes to the wind, entry and exiting the woods. I think that's something like a lot of people talk about, but a lot of people also don't put into consideration like this time of year. I know a big thing just because it's not like it's just muddy. It's not like a bunch of snow or anything. So you see the ground. You can kind of make a plan from there, and it's not middle of summer, so you're not battling all the new sprouted plants and whatnot. For me, myself, I got really bad allergies, especially out here in the Midwest. So when that time comes around, it's like I'm just battling my own, imperfections and just um, trying to be able to breathe and not be sneezing every second. So I just like to get out there early, kind of get it done, like I was saying. Um, Another big thing for kind of like improvements is the shooting lanes. This is something I almost find like every year we would hang a new stand. I would always be like, oh shit, should have cut a little bit more than what I realized, just because the leaves on the tree just kind of get in your way. That being said, you don't want to overcut either, because when you're overcutting, the deer kind of know. Um, we don't have like, I know people, especially like up in northern Wisconsin, people like to, put up their big box blind, and then, they got a north, south, east, west, whatever. They got like lanes, total like huge, maybe like 5 foot wide lanes to shoot down, or even ten foot. They're just big lanes. And we don't really do that here. We're more of the hang a tree stand, and it's pretty like all of it's a little bit wider open, just because we've done so much clear cutting and whatnot, that it's just like big trees. So we just cut the leaves that we know will be within like shooting range of, with the bow. We'll cut those leaves down. They're like small branches, leave the big trees. We're not cutting giant lanes for us to shoot down. Also, because we're mostly bow hunting on this property, we don't do much of the rifle hunting here. So, um, just making sure those paths are, you know, cleared of like the small limbs. That's all we really do. And yeah, like I said, hanging new stuff. Just really think about it with the leaves on there, because that makes a big difference when it comes game time. I like to go up and like practice drawing back a bow, or like pretend that I'm drawing one back, standing up and whatnot, just making sure that my whole surrounding, like I have enough room to move and get different angles, whether the deer's come in a certain direction. So that's all important stuff. in the fall time, you'll definitely thank yourself for it because the leaves are down. Like you, I don't know, this past fall, it's like I was in Montana, right? So I'm texting my dad. I'm like, hey, is everything set up? Everything already? He's like, yeah, it should be good. Like I cleared this area for you. Everything's chopped down. You should be good. Just in case, I always bring a little hand saw with me, and for this reason, I get up into the stand. I stand up. Um, my head whacks a branch, and I'm like, all right, that's gonna be a problem. So took the handsaw out, cut it down, made it 10 times better. I was fighting it a little bit, was trying to just push it out of my way so I could just be quiet and not disturb anything. But it was a pretty small branch, so I was like, all right, whatever, let's get this done with earlier in the day and not mess with it in the evening when it comes game time. And thank God I did because later that day I shot a buck. So just with that branch being there, I probably wouldn't have been able to draw back fully, been comfortable. I would have been in like a weird like side position. And yeah, I just don't like to do that. Even though I have a harness on, it's just I don't totally trust it. The stand is kind of sketchy in the first place, so don't be risking stuff that like you could just get it done with now. And really like plan it out of okay, deer come from this direction, I'll be drawing back in this direction. Make sure everything's cleared and out of the way for you. Just can't. It's another big emphasis in this video that like it will help you in the long run, definitely. Yeah, so other things like for early season when it's still pretty hot out, if you're trying to get like a buck down, or whether that's maybe it's doe too. There's so many does around here, it's kind of crazy. And they're good target practice too. I like shooting does just for the fun of it. And just for the meat of it because it is really important that people take these does and it's part of the circle of life. People don't understand that, especially I don't know around here in the residential areas. It's like the deer will overpopulate, right? And they already are. But if you don't like take care of the the does per se, and they're just every year dropping more and more fawns. It's going to be overpopulated, ruining farmers' crop, ruining, more people are going to hit them with their cars. They're ruining your own vehicle. That's not worth it. Um, and if CWD gets in the area, God forbid, I know it's already like kind of down here, but it's not as bad as it like is in other areas. So just to avoid from that spreading and whatnot, it's important that you kind of just take care of them and just getting meat in the freezer, being able to share that with people, whether that's people in need or friends and family. It's just it's kind of what hunting's all about, right? So. It's important. Yeah, I always try to stress that it's like, okay, if you take a buck, you should take like two or three does as well every season. It helps more than you think, especially when trying to, hunt a certain property and build up the the bucks around there. It's just overpopulating does isn't gonna help you at all. But yeah, with all that being said, early season water source is always important, whether that's out west or in Midwest or out east. It's hot out, so they want water. Um, whether that's making like a small pond or just a watering hole for your deer. Luckily, our property's surrounded by, like I said, a bunch of swamp area and just a big lake. So they got plenty of places to run around and drink water. We have a few holes as well that just like for some reason just retain all this water, and we're always seeing deer. Like the mud around the hole just has deer prints all over. They're definitely using those resources, but kind of use that when it comes to this fall or hanging stands this spring. You gotta use that to your advantage of like knowing where they're coming from for that, and maybe you could ambush them, or you could also just post up nearby one of those water sources if you're hunting early season and use that for your advantage. Um, you don't always need heavy equipment for this stuff. I would like to say that because when we started out, it was just no side by side or anything. It was just one chainsaw. My dad would do the cutting, and I would just be hauling logs out, hauling stakes, and making piles. Um, we like to, make like kind of a scrap pile of all the little stuff, and for the bigger stuff, just make it piles for good firewood and whatnot. Let them dry out during the summer season, and yeah, it's just you don't need heavy equipment. Just a shovel will work if you're looking for a water hole, and you can always break out kind of the ag. I don't know what you call them, the big tubs of water. You can just buy one of those maybe and fill it up. Whatever would best be uh, for your situation. So yeah, you don't always need that heavy equipment. Now we got side by side, we rent like excavators and whatnot, and big wood chippers, just knocking all that stuff down. So um, yeah, or if you got some money to spend, but not the time, and whether you're busy with work, family, whatever, always look into like around you how much land management company would cost just to go in there and clear cut some stuff for you. It's never a bad option. When it comes to food plots, can't say whether we did or didn't, but soil testing is definitely a good idea. For us, I guess we kind of knew that it was kind of a lowland area. There's not, wasn't flooded or anything like that. It doesn't get flooded. Um, and it was it's right next to our ag fields, with like a little bit, like I said, like inside the woods from that. But soil testing, it's important because if you don't soil test and you plant a whole new plot, it's just you never know whether it'll do well enough or not. So it is important to do, but so is the clearing and prepping of like debris and just getting rid of big roots that or big stumps that you're not looking for something to grow back there. Getting rid of all that stuff, making it clear and easy for the deer to locate and graze. So that's right now I'm kind of doing a lot of that debris work. Things are falling down, through the winter, and we got a couple bad storms rolling through. Now it's springtime, and spring just brings all the rain and the wind. So I just been clearing out that debris, kind of making our piles a little bit bigger, piles of wood, and just getting that out of the way. Got a couple piles to burn this spring as well. Um, yeah, just kind of clearing out everything, making it look nice again before we replant for this coming fall. That's another thing I'll get into, but it's important not to plant too early. Um, and yeah, like I said, we'll get into that later. So yeah, clearing, prepping lots, all great, great things, great stuff. Like I said earlier, do not just put your big food plot, like even if it's like, all right, this is kind of controversial when it comes to food plots. People are like, yeah, the more food, the more deer it'll bring. Sure, that might be right, but how are you gonna plan a hunt off of it if you have the biggest food plot in the earth, in the surrounding, however many acres of land? Yeah, it attracts more deer, and you can always like kind of put up stands around it and like just from their paths going to and from. But ultimately, especially just because the size of our land, we don't have too much. About 70, 80 acres of hunting land. So we don't make them too big. We make them pretty small, enough to where you can see a deer on the other side if it comes out. If you're sitting on like the south end, then on the north end, I can see stuff coming out, and usually they just graze to that opposite side. So that's always important too. Not to overdo the food plots, but definitely make them big enough for them to find and graze for a little while. And so they don't just tear up the plants and then it's just kind of gone for the rest of the season. That's also important. Um, but yeah, the spring and summer stuff, we like to plant clover. We'll plant some radish as well. That actually seems to do super well with the deer. The clover kind of helps out with just other species around, the turkeys mostly. They absolutely love that stuff. But the the radishes just they're huge. They, they eat the leaves off the top, and then when it comes late season, there's still the whole radish, like half of it sticks out of the ground, so they're just munching on that. Um, Highly recommended. And then for the grassier stuff that people tend to wait till like later summer to plant, or early spring even, or early fall, excuse me. But that stuff's good too. High grass, they like that stuff. Alfalfa. Um, it's all good. That's just kind of what we're used to is that clover and radish just does phenomenal. So we kind of like switch it every year, every other year. The switch of plots around of like what we're planting just to, be able to turn up the dirt a little bit, keep the soil good, and just give it a variety. So um, I would like to mention if you're making a new food plot, really be sure to test the soil. Make sure it has the cover you need, because ultimately you are taking away from the deer's habitat, especially if you're planting in the woods like we did. Just if you take it out and then plant stuff and it fails, it will do more harm than it will good. And I feel like people kind of get a little happy with their food plots, and if they overdo it, then it just ends up being worse than if you didn't do any food plot. So that's something to keep in mind if you're making new ones, or just trying to improve your current food plots. It's just better safe than sorry type of thing. And don't plant it too early. This will, ultimately lead to A, everything will be torn up and eaten after the springtime and summer. That's not good, but also it is like it's the Midwest. You never know what the weather is going to be. A cold front could come through for a couple weeks, and all your hard work will be, out the window. Nothing will grow, and it'll be just a dead plot at that point. So it's important not to rush into it too soon. Rain does come over the summer. We're not in much of a drought out here in the Midwest. And yeah, it's just you don't need to plant it too early. We kind of, I can't say we base it off of what the farmer we lease out to do all the ag work. They kind of just do their own thing, but we do like take note of when they plant and kind of go based around that according to our schedule and what we're able to pull off. So yeah, that's a very important. A bad food plot hurts more than just no food plot at all. This time of year, I like to put out trail cameras. I know for some people it's a little early. Some people are like just taking theirs out from last season. I'm a big fan of putting them in because we kind of take ours out once it comes like late December almost. We'll get like a good inventory of what bucks are still around. Basically, once we see, excuse me, once we see the first sheds start to drop, we take ours out, kind of just, go over those SD cards. We have a couple cell cameras as well, but we'll take them out, kind of storm away for a month or two, and this time of year, I like to put them back out just to get another inventory of what's still around. It's a little bit more accurate, I'd say, with the pressure being laid off. It's springtime, so they start to come and feed again around the food plots and whatnot. And so just to kind of mark out what's still around. And thankfully, we got plenty. Plenty of does, as always. That's a given at this point. But the bucks too, we've been seeing them come by, and like they'll come up to the camera and scrape trees nearby on those low hanging branches. But um, I'm excited to see which bucks made it through since now they don't have their horns. We can't, it's harder to tell. We don't have any with like, massive scars that we're looking for. So they all look pretty generic. And yeah, looking forward to see them start growing their horns back a little bit, or their antlers, I should say. But yeah, I'll put out trail cameras, take inventory. Especially another reason I like to do it during this time is just so that when I go out to do work, once a week, I'll check those cameras. Especially this time of year, I like to go out every week or so. I'll take out the SD cards, kind of reset those. I'm putting them up in new areas as well as our like, typical areas that we like to put cameras, but trying out new spots. For me, it was for turkey, but also just to take inventory, like I said, see where they're coming from and see what movement may or may not be there. So yeah, I'll reset those SD cards, put them back in every week or so. Just while I'm out there already, might as well. But you don't want to like overpressure the land, so I'm not trying to do that and go out there, whether it's late summer and whatnot. That's when the cell cams kind of come in handy, just so I'm not out there every week checking SD cards or every month or so. Um, and yeah, by this time, since they're out so early, I'll probably reset the batteries and whatnot when it comes to um, let's say like July or so, like kind of my last go around, throw in new batteries and they'll be set for the season then. And at that point, there's no need to really check them. Using the cell cams as well. When I go in for hunts, I'll bring in my adapter to my phone and just check it through there. Like I said, just to not overpressure and to be sure I'm in there with a purpose and not spooking anything off. I don't have to. Um, yeah. So this time of year, it's also great to kind of get your gear prep ready. And that kind of goes along with the property maintenance, whether that's new chainsaws. Right now, we're kind of just not upgrading, but doing maintenance on the saws, just getting new chains. Our pull cords, one snapped off recently, and gotta get that fixed. But they're in the shop now, so it's all good stuff. Gear prep wise, I like to, go shoot my bow a little bit, see if I need new strings or new D-loop, or make sure everything's feeling pretty decent, just ready for next season so I'm not dealing with this later on. Um, and yeah, just keep shooting the bow, keeping the practice up, especially with turkey season around. I'm going with that big beast, 4-inch blade for the turkey decapitator, and just want to make sure I'm dialed. That's a clean shot. But yeah, kind of getting ready on that end. I also recently teamed up with the company that I'll talk about later in the coming months, but they're shipping me a new saddle setup. This will be my first time saddle hunting, and so I just want to go out, practice using it, practice getting the setup down. So then when it comes to early mornings during the hunt, I'm not tooling around with it too much and just able to set it up, get in my tree, and be ready. I'll be practicing shots from up there as well. Using it, trying to avoid getting getting a bridge like wrapped up in my bow and whatnot. So I just make sure I'm really on top of it, especially with the new setup. I like to be extra thorough. Um, but yeah, if you need to upgrade anything, great time to do it. A lot of things are on sale as Father's Day comes up too. A lot of things go on sale then for those larger companies that don't often have sales. It's oftentimes Father's Day and like Black Friday are like the two that I'm like, okay, this is the time to buy if I'm going to. And same with apparel. If you got that old mossy oak or whatnot. I mean, go upgrade the mossy oak if that's what you like. But if you're looking for something maybe a little bit lighter, more comfortable, just a new setup, like I said, great time to do that now, just before everything kind of starts heating up a little bit. When it comes to deer stands, this time of year we like to check straps, make sure nothing's getting eaten up by squirrels or, just kind of rotting away. So we'll check all ratchet straps and whatnot around our tree stands, make sure everything's sturdy still, and any stands that I found a little suspicious, a little sketchy would be a better word for it. This past fall, I'm going around and kind of fixing those, making it more steady and more stable overall, just so there aren't any accidents this fall. I want to avoid that at all costs. I will say in Montana, it's important to check your trees, not just in Montana, but anywhere. Very important to check your trees, make sure they're still alive and are still firm in the ground. In Montana, I did get permission um, on someone's land um, in the Gallatin County, and so I was out there one weekend and went out the next, and the tree during this late season time, the tree that I planned to sit in actually came down and totally destroy. I don't exactly know whose stand it was because I know there's a couple neighbors that would also hunt this land. But during this time, he was just like, if there's any deer stands up, feel free to use them. Um, and so, yeah, I did a little pre-scout, went out later, and the tree was just completely knocked down. And that was just within a week. Um, a week span of time. So yeah, it is important to check trees. That's why I say it, just because it's like I don't know when that fell, but it was a week before it fell. I was up in it, just seeing what the view was, what if I thought it was a good fit or not, and that ended up falling. And yeah, it just would be very, very poor timing. Very sad coincidence, but also just like overall safety. It's just that's the last thing you want, especially if you're 15, 20 feet up in a tree. Um, it really makes a difference if you go through it now and not have the headache of it later, or the headache of it breaking your stand. Because that was the case in Montana, that just tree fell like towards the stand and just totally demolished it, and that would end up taking a life if someone was up in it. So it's important to check that stuff out. Um, what else? Right now, moving stands. We got one stand kind of by a food plot that it's a different one. It's not a tree stand. It's one of those like tripods, but it's not a box blind or anything like that. Just like kind of do it yourself, build it out of the box, and it's just it's a little tripod. It's pretty dinky, but it hasn't been used since I believe the season we put it up, which was a while ago. It was before I moved to Montana and all that. So it definitely is time to officially move that bad boy. Now that my dad has another set of hands on call, and we're kind of discussing where to put it right now. I think we're butting heads a little bit because I think the spot he wants to put it is a little bit too close to the bedding area um, than he may even realize. Because I did just find this new bedding area more recently, but still in determination of where we put this stand. But ultimately, we need to move this stand just because we know it's in a bad spot for access. Just overall location, deer don't really come through there as much as we originally thought they were. And yeah, that's why we're looking at the trails now, why I'm looking for bedding areas, because now I'm able to mention that, and we'll probably play some different cards based off of the information and the intel I got this spring. So moving stands, great time to do it. Like I said, be able to go up there, practice pulling back your bow, or even just making sure you got enough room to shoot a rifle if that's the type of hunting you're doing. But all important things, and good time of year to do it. Um, I mean, yeah, besides the shooting lanes and trail access with moving stands, it's just don't put that in the back of your mind. If you don't have a good way to access that area, then maybe it's not a good spot to put a stand. Um, yeah, that's probably the best advice I'll give you today. But yeah, so it's kind of right now, especially if you're a turkey hunter, it's balancing this land work with turkey hunting as well. So I did go out and put up cameras and whatnot, trying to see if there are many turkey around, because we typically have a good handful, but not as much as what Wisconsin can provide. Um, so been doing that, and it's kind of to the point where it's like, okay, I'm gonna be door knocking this year, especially my first turkey hunt. I kind of want to be set up and prepared, and not just hunting where there's no turkeys. So with that decision being made, I have put more pressure on the land right now just to get it done with, so there's less pressure for the deer later on. But that's important to, take in a little bit. That's why a lot of people do push it off later on, just so then they're not pushing turkeys now, and then they can hunt them successfully. But then you're kind of behind on the land management for the deer. So it is a little bit of managing that time back and forth, seeing what would work best for you. Um, and it's just important to be smart about it and don't be so reckless. If you are planning to hunt turkeys on your land this season, it's not worth blowing them out and chasing birds away. Um, Especially if they're like roosting on your land and stuff. Definitely important to kind of keep out of there for now. But ultimately, it comes down to what's more important to you, the big bucks or the big toms, them long beards. So yeah, just keep that in mind as you're working out there this time of year. And if you are turkey hunting, that's great. It would also be smart to combine some deer scouting from this past fall. And like I said, reading those trails, those beds, even looking for sheds while you're turkey hunting. Just kind of combine the scout with the hunt, and that would definitely help you out in the long run. So you don't have to go out there and redo the little scouting process when you're trying to determine where to put a new stand or a food plot or anything like that. So yeah, just combine them, and that'll lead to some success and some just being ahead of the game overall compared to other turkey hunters that are hunting whitetail. So some common mistakes during this time of year that people will make is just doing too much. Yeah, we'll start there. Doing too much, whether that's too much of the food plots, too much of the, hinge cutting, killing more than you are, making the habitat thrive. So just be mindful of that when you're going through and taking care of everything. And just doing too much as in going in there too often, over pressuring deer, bumping things out for a long run. Um, it's pretty hard to do during this time of year, but it's definitely possible if you're in there every single day. Um, and then another very common mistake, especially for them turkey hunters, is just waiting too long to start. If you can start this week, do it. If you can start when you're hearing this podcast, do it. If you're turkey hunting, make sure to combine it with that little scout. Just take in all the intel you can while you're back there, so you're not blowing things out in the future. And yeah, and when you're turkey hunting, it's also important to be quiet turkey hunting. So take note of your access routes. If it's a new property, you can try one thing. Maybe it's not the best, but take in all that intel and put it into the deer hunt situation. It's important. especially for the whitetail that can smell and basically any human scent. They're used to it. They know what it is. They will run from it. So it's important to take that all into consideration when you're doing all the things to get ready for this fall. And so, yeah, take in as much intel as you can when you're out there is what I'm saying. I kind of want to go back to that like size of property I was talking about. So, like I said, we're hunting like 70 to 80 acres of land, roughly, and it's not huge, but it's not the smallest property either. It definitely feels a lot smaller now that it's a little bit, I don't know what's the right word. Now that we're using it, now that we're accustomed to it, it definitely feels a bit smaller. But I know guys that are successful on 5 to 20 acres of land, within that range. And as long as you have good cover and you're smart with your access, you're smart with the wind, and put out consistent food. Not saying you should bait. I mean food plots and whatnot. But as long as you have those resources, and maybe you're in between where they bed and where they feed. That works. You're gonna you're gonna come across some big bucks that way. And it's how you play it. It's not the size of the land gets you bigger bucks. That's not true at all. If you have 5 acres, but they bed on one side and they come through your property to go get, you know, water and food and all those other resources, then you're set up. Just at that point, you just gotta have good cover and be smart with your access points, and just use the wind to your advantage. Just be smart about it. You don't need hundreds of acres to shoot big bucks. That's kind of what people think nowadays too, and it's just not true whatsoever. And if you guys are really questioning a lot of this, I recommend go listen to the Working Class Bow Hunter podcast. They talk about it all the time, whether it's a small leased land or their own land itself. It's like they're talking about how, like I said, you don't need the big plots to shoot big bucks. You just got to be smart with it, especially playing the wind. That's kind of what people foresee the most, but they don't actually practice that. So, a little bit of a recap. Scout now, worry less later. Improve your habitat, improve your food plots. Don't think about, I don't know, don't think about the fall too much. Just focus on what you got going now and what you can do to improve your land today. Um, the next episode, I want to talk about turkey hunting a little more. Actually, no, scratch that. Right now, we're going to be talking about turkey hunting. Um, Just because I know I can't make a full episode on it. It'll be my first season. And I've basically decided to do it the most challenging way I can possibly think of, by going to do some land scouting, which I've been doing a lot of recently, in the local area and, knocking on doors, trying to get permission. I do have permission on one piece of property right now. So that's a good feeling just to, have a backup. But I am gonna be door knocking a little bit just to kind of make sure I'm set up for that week span that I have to hunt them. Um, but yeah, where do I even start? I got a ground blind from Tidewee. It's like the 360 see-through. Honestly, came out a lot better than I realized. But yeah, I love that ground blind so far. This is not an ad whatsoever. No correlation with them, just trying it out. I use their waders too, so it's like might as well roll with the company I trust already. So yeah, it's just got a ground blind. Got a working on a filming setup right now, so hopefully film my hunt and be able to get the beast broadhead in action. Kind of just keep practicing. I did a review on that arrow, so check that out on Prey Pursuit, on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. But yeah, just check that stuff out if you're interested. I still need to shoot those 4-inch blades into a pillow and practice on the turkey target. But I'm feeling pretty confident. Just been getting a lot of shooting reps in lately. I did actually find like a little bit of a difference between the elevation from Bozeman, Montana to here. My arrows were shooting like consistently about like an inch, inch and a half lower than when they were dead on in Bozeman. So I did have to I switched my 20-yard pin, but still got to do my 30 and 40 and get those dialed in again. Um, but yeah, that was a kind of a bizarre realization. I do remember that being a problem when I was out here this fall for hunting. When I was practicing before going out into the woods, I noticed that it was shooting a little low, so I made that adjustment and put it back to the Bozeman, but totally forgot about it. Now I'm out here, I'm like, why am I shooting low? But yeah, kind of crazy how that works. But yeah, other than that, I mean, there's not too much to it. Been practicing my calls, got a Phelps diaphragm call, and that honestly is way harder than I realized. I'm used to the elk diaphragms, and they, I can't find the resemblance between the two. It's just, I'm not used to turkeys, I guess, and calling them, it's different. Got one of the scratch calls as well. Don't know the real name for those, so gotta inform myself a little bit there. But this is what the podcast is all about, interacting with you guys and being able to learn more, and you guys watching me learn, so you can go out and not make the same mistakes I'm making. But that's what it's all about ultimately, is just making mistakes and adjusting, and it's just more rewarding when it comes time. Um, so yeah, that's about it for this episode. I should be getting some more guests on pretty soon here. There's been no excuse, but I've been contacting people, just trying to figure out schedules around Easter, and then also just logistics. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But as of right now, that's all I got for you guys. Go ahead, get out this week, this weekend. Do one thing to improve your land, or if you haven't even started that, get started. If you're looking for properties to hunt, do some scouting, do some night scouting, for road scouting. Go check them out. Yeah. Uh, One thing I did forget to mention was I did some duck scouting out here recently. Drop some pins of where, public access, and then also some private as well that I'm going to be door knocking. Pretty excited for that. I found one spot. Don't know how well it will do in the fall, but as of right now, it is pretty loaded up, and yeah, should be good to hunt off that. I'm still debating whether I want to hunt around it or just hunt the X, as they say, but I don't know if that'll be the smartest way to do it if they're all just like kind of roosting down there. So yeah, working on things. But you guys get out there, go find animals, find a lamb for lease. Do what you can now to save you a headache later, and it'll improve a lot. So, like I said, check us out on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. There's like daily updates there right now, especially with I'm still in between jobs and whatnot, so might as well put some time into the social media side. And um, yeah, feel free to get in contact with me if you have any questions, if you're interested in being on the podcast or something like that. Um, my door's always open, and best way to do that is through Instagram, or Pray Pursuit email, which is also on the social media. You can find it. So yeah, um, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I know a lot of it was pretty repetitive, but it's honestly things that are very important and people don't totally always take as serious as they could. I know I haven't, at least in the past. So yeah, I'm happy to be back in the homeland and work on the farm a little bit and get things ready for this next fall. So, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.